This pedal board is amazing. It's flexible, versatile, highly configurable, and it sounds good. I'll show you how I've integrated it with my Line 6 HX Stomp and a few of my favorite pedals for a powerhouse worship rig. I'll run through the signal chain and demo my control scheme to show you what this rig can do. Let's start with physical wiring and configuration. It all starts with the input at the HX Stomp, which gives me the option of a pre-board noise gate and adjusting impedance input if I need to. The MS-3 serves as the rig command center, but is physically wired into the HX Stomp effects loop, mono send and stereo return. By virtue of design, the MS-3 only has a mono in, which can be slightly limiting, but it's alright in the context of this board, which you'll see why when I talk about the blocks of the HX Stomp signal chain. My overdrives are then wired in one of the loops of the MS-3, namely loop 2 in this case. There's no tonal reason why it's loop 2, it's actually because my patch cables are so bulky that side-by-side wiring is troublesome. As for controllers, this is where the MS-3 shines. Whereas I would have had to choose between an expression pedal or a 2-button foot switch on the HX Stomp, I can have both on the MS-3. I have a Dunlop Mini volume wired into EXP1 via TRS, functioning as an expression pedal for my wah and volume needs, but I can easily configure it for whammy, delay mix, or any parameter on the MS-3. I also have a 2-button aux switch that I've used for years on my HX Stomp, wired into CTL34 via TRS. Their functions change depending on the patch, like one being for tap tempo or MS-3 FX bypass, but I always have one switch as a favorite that disables the loops containing my drives, toggles, and MS-3 chorus, and sends a MIDI CC message to the HX Stomp to switch to a snapshot with a shimmer reverb and crank compression settings. If the patch contains a boss wah, one of them is a wah bypass switch, which when engaged leaves the volume expression control alone if they're configured on the same EXP assignment. Thank you, boss. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes, the effects in my signal chain and how I set it out with control. At the input, I'll turn the noise gate on. This doesn't have to be too aggressive, just enough to cover the noise floor as generated by the pickups going into the system. For humbuckers, I usually dial in a -60 dB threshold, and for single coils, I'll turn that up to -48 dB. This ensures a clean signal going through the board. My goal is to first set up stereo amps and cabs with a shimmer reverb, and then add in a compressor, an EQ, and a pre-FX loop effect, and that's going to be quite a challenge given that the shimmer takes up 24% DSP. But first, running the numbers with Ben Vesco's DSP allocation tables, it looks like I'll have enough to run an AC30 and a Fender Twin in stereo with some DSP to spare for a simple modulation effect. So clearly a Bethel style tone. Now, I leave HX Edit and enter the MS-3 editor. First things first, I want to use foot switch 1 as a global tap tempo switch, and to do that, I go to the CTL EXP page, look under num1 and select BPM tap. I want to create a preset with wah and volume capabilities, so let's select wah in FX1. I also make sure the assignments are as follows. At EXP1, select FX1 WH PB FV. And CTL in 3, select FX1. This means when I press the external foot switch at CTL in 3, it disables volume expression and enables wah expression without controller conflict. I drag mod 1 and mod 2 before my loops because I like the sound of pre-overdrive modulation, and I choose my favorite effects, the slicer and the chorus. I enable loop 2 because that's what my drives are connected to. And now for the post loops effects. Some may bemoan the fact that one block is locked up as a noise gate, but I appreciate the extra utility. It comes in very handy for eliminating post-drive noise. We've now come to the wet section where I've devoted one FX block, the delay block, and the reverb block, and I believe I found a combination of effects that make the MS-3 Sunday service ready. On the reverb block, I've gone with a modulated model which reminds me of the RV5, a staple on Sunday boards before Strymon. On the delay block, I've used Boss's equivalent of the simple delay and dialed in a dotted eighth sound. I've gone this route because I don't want the delay sound to degrade too much like with an analog or tape delay model. Pro tip if you're using Boss effects. While most pedal makers use a mix control, Boss uses an effect level to bring in the blend of the delay over the drive signal. Effect level is slightly different from mix level. Whereas with a mix control, you can dial out the drive signal and have 100% wet. On a Boss pedal, you can't do that. Effect level on 10 is most likely a 50% mix where the delay is as loud as the drive signal. So if you're dialing in that U2 sound, don't be afraid to crank that effect level. Now on a Helix patch, I usually have a low mix quarter note delay as a tone enhancer that complements the reverb. When dialed in with darker repeats, the guitar tone gets enveloped in a warmth that makes playing all the more inspiring. You would think there's no more blocks for another delay, except on the FX block, there's something called sub delay. There are very few options to dial in tone-wise, but by turning up the high cut and the effect control and setting the time to quarter notes, we can use the sub delay in the FX block as the missing link in creating the ideal PNW wet section. So in sum, I have the sub delay and modulated reverb working in tandem to create Sunday service levels of always on ambience, dialed to taste depending on how bright or dark I need them to be. I then have a dedicated foot switch that toggles the delay block, dialed in with a simple dotted eighth for the ubiquitous U2 sound. And that's how I'm using the MS-3 and HX Stomp together. I think that they make for a mind-blowing combination, but what do you think? Have I made sensible use of the available blocks of the MS-3? Are you planning on getting one yourself, and would you like to know more? Let me know in the comment section below. For a sub $600 piece of gear and probably cheaper on the second-hand market, I think I'll be hard-pressed to find something similar with this level of functionality and quality of sounds. Do try one of these if you happen to chance upon one, and I don't think you will regret it. Quick announcements, my latest EP is out and I'd love for you to check it out on your favorite stream platforms. I've also worked on a single for my talented friend from Church of Singapore, Eileen Lau, where I played electric guitar, mixed and mastered for her. It's a song I'm privileged and honored to be a part of, so I hope you head on over and check it out and let the song speak to you. I have other videos on my budget gear series that explore the pros and cons of using gear in a certain price bracket. If you'd like to see more, please head on over to those videos in the playlist. I'll see you there. Until next time, I'm Justin, and I'm all about worship guitar.